the best big brother I could have ever asked for.
Well, what's up, half-step brothers-in-law? I'm Austin, that's Alex, and we're sadly related. You got some headlines? That's what I heard.
I've got some stuff for you.
You got some stuff?
I got some stuff.
Got some stuff?
I got the stuff.
All
right.
Oh, spicy.
All right. So, I am part of Mark Manson's newsletter email thing. So, whenever he sends out a weekly email every Monday morning, it's just kind of like, hey, here's something interesting.
Yeah.
Something he sent this past Monday was the idea that you should be able to hold ideas or thoughts that you don't necessarily believe in.
Yeah.
So, or like competing thoughts on certain situations.
Yeah.
One of them he wanted to bring up was the idea that climate change contributes to obesity.
Go on.
So the idea is that he marks two studies, two interesting science articles. One talks about how the USA, everyone in the USA is pretty fucking fat. Like,
I mean, we're what, half overweight, a third obese?
It's stats given. See, this article came out it was originally published in 2013, updated in 2017. So it says 36% of American adults are obese, 70% of adults aged 20 years and over are overweight. 70% are overweight. 70%. And 36 are obese.
Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, I'm technically obese.
In the last 15 years from 2017, the country's obesity rate has increased every single year.
Yeah, no, I believe that.
And so what it says is while America is the first offender, or is the worst offender, the West in general is getting bigger. In the past few decades, there's been simultaneous increases in obesity in almost all countries, according to a 2011 paper in The Lancet. Worldwide obesity has almost doubled since 1980, which is insane. And what it talks about is not just the rising of human obesity in this proposition that climate change is causing obesity. They also talk about how animals and pets over the last few decades have also gained a bunch of weight.
Yeah.
And it says, I think in 2007 was the first drug that was made for animal obesity. And it's been...
Well, that kind of makes sense. If the human eats a bunch of shit, then...
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that, like, people feed their dogs scraps and, you know, that's not good for them and all that jazz. But they also go on to note that, like, they do actual, like, scientific studies putting not pets, but, like, caged animals or animals they do research on, subject them to, or not subject them, but they just monitor them over a period of time. So they're given the same food for, like, a decade or however long. And then over that time period, they gain weight. And so then these are all just, like, kind of scientific studies, observations, stuff like that. You know, correlation does not equal causation.
Sure.
So what they go on to say, they talk about is with climate change causing, there's higher CO2 counts in the atmosphere, all of that. The second paper starts talking about how the acidity in your blood can change how the hunger area of your brain operates. So if there's more CO2 in the air, we're breathing in more CO2, it changes the acidity of the blood, which then can affect the neurons and neuronic pathways inside the brain, affecting hunger, and can make you more hungry and eat more. This is over, you know, decades. This isn't per person.
What's the normal pH balance of blood?
It's
Is
like,
it's slightly acidic, isn't
it's
it?
slightly acidic. It's like 6.7.
Yeah, it's not far from water.
No, it's like 6.3, 6.7. It's in the sixes, whereas normal is like halfway between is 7, 0 to 14.
Right. No, 7's water.
Yeah.
And then lower than 7's acidic and higher than 7's alkaline.
Alkaline basic, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So it's like 6.3, 6.7. It's in the sixes somewhere.
Yeah,
it's
in the
only
mid-sixes, let's
slightly
say.
acidic.
So the more acidic the blood, is it increased hunger response? Or what's the pathway there?
Let's see here. Okay, so it talks about how the 2011 study done in University of Copenhagen, where they placed 6 young men in special climate rooms where some of the men were exposed to increased amounts of CO2.
Okay.
After 7 hours, the men were allowed to eat as much as they liked. This pilot study showed that the men with greater amount of CO2 in their blood ate 6% more food than men who had been in climate rooms with a normal amount of CO2. We could also see the extra amount of CO2 cause the men's heartbeat to raise, and this gives us an indication that CO2 affects the brain's nerve cells, orexins, in the hypothalamus, which, among other functions, control our appetite and the composition of our nutrient intake.
Okay.
Now, they said those guys subjected to high levels of CO2 in that study ate 6% more food. I'm sure they had a way to measure what 6% means, but is 6%
Probably calorie consumption
either
or food weight.
either food weight or calorie consumption. I don't know which inherently, but either one of those is a fine metric as long as you
As long as you all have the same type of food.
as long as it's
available.
consistent, right?
Yeah.
So, what I find interesting is 6% significant.
Okay, well, okay.
I mean, you could run the statistics, and I'm sure they
I
did.
think
but-
okay. I'm gonna run through a thought, and then I have a battery of questions I have.
Okay.
So 6%. So let's say you eat 2,000 calories a day.
Mhm.
6% is 120. Every pound of fat is 3,500 calories. So 30 times 120 is 3,600. Right.
Yes.
So that's a pound a month. If you take that over the course of, those effects would get mitigated over time. Maybe, because as you get heavier, your maintenance calories go up.
So
does it compound on itself is probably the first question.
So there's a couple things. Obviously, this is not definitive.
No,
but
doesn't prove anything.
it doesn't prove legitimately anything.
Anything.
So, because like the main idea of why people gain weight in the last year is because with increases in technology, people's lives have become more sedentary.
Yeah.
People are in their chairs working on computers more, just like we are.
Sure.
Which is fine. That's proven. That's fair. I know back when I was a kid, the reigning idea was that your metabolism weakens as you grow older, and I think now that has become, it's been proven that that's bullshit, because it's just people become more sedentary. They just stop exercising as much as they get older. Your metabolism, I would assume, and what I've heard, stays
It's pretty close.
fairly relatively the same over 80 years.
It's pretty close.
You just work out less because life gets
Puberty
in the way.
notwithstanding.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the thing. It's like, you're growing a lot, so puberty, but then like once you stop growing,
Yeah.
like I don't know, but
My appetite hasn't changed much from like 19 and now.
my appetite has changed, but I'm not working out all the time. Like back in high school,
Yeah, that's the other factor.
when
too,
I
right?
when I was running, playing soccer and stuff like that, I was running 3-4 miles a day, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
I would eat McDonald's every day, and I eat almost like 5 meals a day. But I would just be like, hey, I'm gonna run it off tomorrow, because that's exactly what I did.
You and me both.
That's exactly what I did.
That's what we did in high school.
So, but okay, so there's the sedentary lifestyle, and that's what adds to it. So, a couple of the pushback ideas of this is like, okay, but people people might be taking in CO2 more. It's possible in the atmosphere.
Sure.
But if you're inside, how much does that count for? If people are more sedentary and they're inside more, how much does that really account for?
My big question was how much are they increasing the CO2?
Well, that as well, right?
Right. Well, and that's a relevant question because when they did the whole salt raises blood pressure, which it doesn't, by the way, they were loading the mice with the equivalent of like a fucking chunk, like a salt, like almost like I want to say like 5 grams of salt or some shit, which no one ever fucking consumes in a day. So
Right.
like it was such an, it's like, that amount of excess would increase your blood pressure.
Right.
But putting salt on your eggs in the morning isn't going to fucking kill you.
No.
You know?
Would you like some eggs with that salt? That's more of what they did. Like,
It's more like, would you like some blood with that salt? Fucking.
And one of the other pushbacks is that, so it says here that fruit and vegetables also reduce the blood's pH value. So the CO2 theory is also an argument for eating more healthy. This is a sentence I wanted to parse out. When they say reduce blood's pH value, I think they mean bring it back to normal. I don't think they mean it lowers the pH value because that's what we're trying to combat.
But that's what they're saying.
Yeah, I think it's just.
I agree with you. That's just bad writing.
No, yeah, I think it's just bad writing.
Yeah.
But so it's fruit and vegetables bring the pH value of blood back to its normal acidic levels that it's supposed to be.
I mean, I can believe that.
So that's why these writers are more like, hey, just because climate change is real and it's affecting you maybe in a healthy manner, maybe in a healthy in like your eating habits, that doesn't mean you should just throw shit to the wall and say fuck it. You should still eat healthy. Like these statistics work on a population level, not on a personal level.
Right.
This doesn't absolve you of your misgivings and your lack of
I've never heard
stuff in
that
your face.
hypothesis before.
But it is interesting. So obviously this is stuff like it is very. It's not proven yet.
No.
And it's still in its infancy, but it is an interesting thing to think about. Which it goes back to the whole idea. It's like these are ideas that might be out there that might be true. You don't have to necessarily believe that they're true, or but it's like something that they're ideas that you should play around with and be like, oh, maybe that is a thing. Don't take it away and just let it run your life.
Yeah.
But it's something like, oh, okay, maybe that's okay, cool, all right.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, it's stuff like that. And then there's a couple other ideas as well if we want to go through that. But that whole like climate change is affecting obesity over decades time period and on a population level is really interesting.
Well.
Because it's not just people, it's animals and stuff, and wild animals too. They said wild animals have gained more weight since, I think it was like 5.6% since 1948, which is like, that's 60 years. And how much is 5.6% significant? I don't know. Over a 60-year time period or longer, whatever, 70 years now. Is that significant? I don't know. But it is an increase, so that's interesting. And it's wild animals. It's not factory farming. It's not any of this shit. It's wild animals.
My initial react, just to play out the possibilities, which is what we're doing with these kinds of studies and information, is like, does the increased carbon capture provide up to a certain ceiling a more favorable environment for vegetation to grow and an increased amount of vegetation downstream make things heavier? Because the reason we have fat storage, or most animals have fat storage, is like food's not always consistent. And so you kind of just eat as much as you can. And if there's more to eat, you're going to get heavier. Now, there's a lot of counter arguments to that in that like a lot of farming near the equator has gotten totally fucked by global warming as well. So that's not a set in stone argument. But who knows?
Yeah, it's just a really interesting idea to play around with, because it's very similar to the idea of like the reason that people in the South are slow and you could say are less intelligent is because what was it, hookworm?
Yeah, that was the argument.
There's a theory there that like hookworm and its pervasiveness in the South because of various reasons,
Mostly sanitation.
and people walking around with their shoes off and shit like
Yeah.
that, led to hookworm becoming more prevalent in the population, leading to intelligence problems and stuff like that. And so and that's obviously it's based on a stereotype, but if the stereotype is there for a reason, there might be some reason backing it, and obviously it's going to be scientific if that's the case. So,
Well, I don't know. You know what this kind of reminds me of? The idea Rome fell because of lead pipes.
well, you know what? That's they call it plumbing because plum is lead. It's Latin for lead. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, which is the same thing, right? Yeah. It's,
Well, so
They-
what,
they-
so when you get
they
lead
just went-
poisoning,
they went Mad as a Hatter kind of thing.
yeah. So yeah, lead poisoning, or well, Mad Hatter's I think mercury poisoning,
It is, but
it's
just
similar in that it's
yeah.
heavy metal poisoning, and lead. Your decision making goes awry, Nero, and then that's how you end up with a bunch of people who can't make decisions and their temperament goes to shit. Yeah, it's. I had actually never heard that hypothesis until like last year.
Yeah. Well, so
and I was just like,
I told you
Makes
about
sense to me.
the book that I'm reading, Napoleon's Buttons. I've been told about it for like a decade because in material science.
oh yeah.
In material science, they tell you, hey, read that book because it's super interesting. It doesn't inherently talk about all the materials. It talks about different compounds and like, but the leading idea is that Napoleon wasn't able to conquer Russia in the winter, not just because it was winter and it was cold,
Winter in Russia is brutal.
but because the buttons on Napoleon's army's clothing was made of tin, and in super low temperatures, tin can turn into a powder.
Yeah.
And so as these buttons started presumably falling off and turning into powder,
Clothing becomes less
the
effective.
clothing becomes less effective, so the soldiers had to hold their clothes together rather than brandishing arms. So
Can't fight.
so they weren't able to fight as effectively and therefore lost the war and lost all that.
I mean, it makes sense, right?
Which makes sense. And so then the book has like 17 chapters. It goes into spice trade and how just there's like 2 compounds found in like the sweetness or like ginger root.
Yeah.
How the compound in ginger actually contributed to the spice trade and stuff like that. Because I think it was, and there's the sweet sugar and stuff like that. Like sugar plants can't really grow in the north in like Europe.
right.
So everything was super bland, not super sweet, and then somehow someone got a hold on a sugar from the South Indies or wherever it was from, somewhere on the equator.
Right.
And so then they shipped it up to them, and they're like, and obviously because monarchies are the way they are, it was generally the monarchies who found out about these trades, and then they're like, oh shit, I can make this shit super fucking sweet, and actually make good food with it. And so then they're just like, all right, all the Dutch, let's fucking run it, let's grab it all. And then now they don't actually use sweetness in any of their foods anymore, but.
Alex out here with the tea this stream.
But it's super.
Brutal.
It's stuff like that you don't think about. There's just like certain small things like that could change the tides of history in ways that you wouldn't think.
Yeah.
But it's like this is one of those things that might be true.
Well, it's not impossible to think about because like we define, episodes of history as like the Bronze Age,
Right.
right? And so like I mean, it would make sense to me that like now as you get an abundance of manufacturing capabilities, one particular metal or compound becomes less important by virtue of more compounds being utilized.
Right.
So like you probably don't end up in like the plastic age that we are in now
No.
per se.
No.
But it is I like it. I really like books that tell those kinds of histories like what What was I
It's
thinking
like
of?
it's history books or scientific books, but with a narrative.
Yeah,
And those
I
are
think,
books I'm really drawn to.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, well, a good science book with a narrative. I forget the title of it. It's the other one by Neil deGrasse Tyson, where he talks about historical uses of astrophysics in wartime.
Yep.
So, which has my favorite wartime story ever. TLDR for the stream. Columbus goes to the West Indies on like his 4th trip. Before he heads home, he realizes he doesn't have enough food for all of his men. Goes to the local villagers and says, hey, Columbus knows that there's going to be a blood moon in 3 days. And he goes to the village and he says, hey, give me all your food. And they say, no, we're not giving you all our food. And he goes, if you don't, then my God, who's more powerful than your God, is going to turn the moon blood red. And everyone, half the village goes, supposedly, half the village goes, we should probably give him more food. The other half goes, nah, he's full of shit. 3 days later, blood moon arrives. They give him all his fucking food and he ships off. And they all starve to death in the winter. So, which is...
Was Columbus a great guy? No, but was he intelligent? Sure.
Sure. I mean, you can't really argue with that one.
No. Crafty.
We'll call it crafty, or like a Galileo, funded all of his. What's good, homies? What's good, Josh? Galileo funded all of his trips by selling telescopes to the Dutch army.
Mm-hmm.
So they had all the glass, and then he helped kind of refine that process, and then said, hey, instead of like looking over shore, you can look like 10x over shore. And they're like, get 1 million of them. And then, and then that's how he funded all his ventures.
Here, take all my money.
So capitalism and engineering funded wartime activity. Would you look at that? It's almost like it's the same thing now.
Well, what's super interesting is people always boo-hoo capitalism, and there are certain parts of it that are pretty shitty, but at the same time, it's led to so many different discoveries, inventions.
It is so far the longest standing economic system that has maintained itself.
Right. So, like, okay, you could say...
outside of bartering.
Yeah. Well, it's so weird because, like, you could say... It's Elon Musk's thing. That's why he made his the blueprints for his Teslas like public.
Oh yeah,
For
he gave them to everyone else.
the electric batteries public because it's like
He wanted the competition.
he wanted the
because
competition.
he knew cars would get better faster that way.
Right, because other people are like, "Oh shit, I can make this better," and then they're like, "Okay, well, go ahead and try."
So
then Tesla would react to that, being like, "Oh shit, maybe they did make it better. Now we have to counteract that," and it just keeps getting better and better. And so then, in the customer's favor, electric batteries and electric cars get better and better in a quicker pace, rather than just one company hoarding all of the information.
Yep.
So-
Elon's a fucking Chad. So what? I don't understand. Like, okay, I kind of get how people would hate on Elon, but not really.
I really don't.
But not really.
I don't get it.
From
From an engineer, I don't get why they're mad at him.
It's really just an ad hominem argument.
That's all it is.
But like, that happens to everyone, in my opinion. So here's the thing about Elon, and he's the ultimate Chad.
There's jelly.
He was the first to really develop like commercial electric vehicles on a bigger scale, because we had like the Chevy Volt or the Nissan Leaf, and those were bullshit, right?
Kill yourself, yeah.
And then everyone was making hybrid vehicles. He's like, no, I'm gonna go full electric. And then he released all the battery plans, and then all the car manufacturers laughed at him. And then now Tesla's worth more than the 3 next biggest car manufacturers combined.
Yep.
And so now they're all like vowing to go full electrical by 2035. And it's like, he gave you the blueprint and told you what he was going to do, and then he did it and kicked your ass so bad that you're now following in his footsteps.
Right.
I'm like, I can't name a more awesome capitalist than that. He told you, I'm going to do this. You can compete against me, please. I want it.
And
He wanted the smoke.
The funny thing is like,
But not from his cars, 'cause they're
He
electric.
is an engineer through and through. The reason he's able to fund SpaceX and Tesla is because
He's the one making the shit.
well, he's the one testing it every day, and he helped create PayPal.
Yeah,
That's how he got his money.
Yeah, he got all his money because he helped make PayPal, and then he sold that.
Yeah.
and then he took all of that money and split it among Tesla. What's the other one?
Solar City, SpaceX,
SpaceX
yeah.
and Solar City.
Yeah.
that was most of the money.
Yeah.
And then he has an AI company and Neuralink.
Neuralink, yeah.
Right.
But
So-
it's just,
And the Boring Company now.
and it's not just like, oh, he's making a new iPhone or making a new phone. He's making shit that's like trying to get us.
He keeps saying
To the
over
future.
and over, I'm trying to better humanity and I'm trying to get us to Mars.
So that's my whole thing is like, why do people shit on him? I don't get it. I don't get it.
When he first started the Boring Company, I was super interested because, well, he would so casually talk about, he's like, we dug like 100-foot pit in the middle of Los Angeles. He's like, how'd you manage to do that? It's pretty easy. You just asked, hey, can I take this line and dig a pit? Dig a pit. It's just this big pit.
Dig a hole, Eddie, dig a hole.
And then he has machines that are controlled by an Xbox controller, digging a tunnel and then putting a cement wall around it and then reinforcing it and then driving his Teslas 2 miles through the boring tunnel in order to test it out. That's so fucking cool. But he was talking about, because he's not a great business leader, but he openly says he's not a business leader.
The thing is,
He openly says he's not.
okay, he's not a good business leader. Who gives a shit about the
Right.
business? It's the product. Who gives a fuck about the business? The business could go on. The business could stay level. I don't give a shit if the business grows.
No one gives a shit.
He's making awesome shit. If the business goes under or he gets ousted as CEO, someone else will take it over and continue to make awesome product. Like, I don't understand.
But also, neither of those companies are at the point where you could get rid of Elon. They keep going.
No, but also like, okay, don't put money in the companies. Don't buy their stocks.
If it stays in the red, no, it's not. That's untrue. Look at Uber. It's been 12 years. They haven't turned a profit.
Netflix was
Also, Tesla turned a profit last quarter.
Netflix was in the red for 11 years, I believe.
Yeah.
So
we're coming up on that timeline
Yeah.
with Tesla, but Tesla's going to be fine.
tech companies are in the red because investors keep giving them money. I think they're overvalued, but at the same
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree that Tesla's overvalued,
but at the same time, it's just like, okay,
but I think it'll play out long term.
just because it's in the red doesn't mean anything. But
Not anymore.
fucking yeah.
Facebook wasn't profitable for like 7 years.
Well, that's because it's especially like software companies, like tech companies like Facebook and all these app companies. They're basing their evaluation on future
Yeah.
like user.
I mean, which
users.
Tesla is too, because
future users.
Yeah.
But instead of being like, hey, we've actually moved this amount of product, but you can't do that in app space. I guess you can. How many downloads and users,
Yeah.
active users you
Yeah.
have. But it's like, oh, it's getting
Even though
traction.
the app space is kind of dead at this point.
It's getting traction. But it's because every dude who thinks he has an idea, every entrepreneur has to make an app now.
Well, there's just not a lot of utility left out of apps.
No shit.
Yeah, that's, which is kind of weird because we ran out of that space in 5 years, right? That's like the fastest open and shut industry I've ever seen.
What was your classmates? I want to make a meetup.com, but for millennials.
Here's the thing, but my only, and Josh and I have talked about this at length, and he knows we disagree. The established players shifting to electric, I don't see them making a better product than Tesla. At least right for the near future. I mean, they laughed at Tesla for so long, and then now they're deciding to get into it. And I'm not I think Apple's going to make a better car than Ford is going forward.
Well, yeah.
Like I'm bullish on Silicon Valley making better cars for the future, if I'm being honest. Because part of it is human capital. I don't think the best engineers work at Ford. I think they work at Google.
I can attest to that, yes, because we had, was it Ford? Back in engineering, when I was in engineering school, we had people from Ford come and give talks and be like, hey, we're doing this, talking about like
It's 30-year-old technology.
talking about materials and like crumple zones and like it's kind of interesting materials stuff.
Crumple zones are...
But it's for people that like it's like the trains. What's that industry called? It's
The
like
railroad industry?
Yeah, it's like the railroad industry. One of my best friends works for Norfolk Southern as a railroad. She's a material analyst for Norfolk Southern.
Oh, yeah.
She is the youngest person there, like almost by far. And because it's all 60, 50, 70-year-old people working these jobs, and they're just trying to get people to take their jobs for when they retire. What?
My dad works for GM, and they're a bunch of hacks.
That's funny.
But all they really need to do is copy the tech.
That's
Yes,
the
and
thing.
no.
The jobs.
But if they keep copying Tesla, they're always going to be a step behind Tesla.
From my perspective,
That's my argument.
from my perspective as a materials engineer, the jobs just aren't fucking interesting.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
They're
right?
just not interesting.
I just think, Tesla. Okay, so let's say Google and Apple actually start making cars in the next 5 years. So you have Tesla, Google, Apple getting in the car game. Who coming out of college is gonna want to go work at Ford? Or
No,
nobody.
Unless you're set on, hey, I'm going to work for them for 5 years, get my paycheck, and leave. But then, how are you going to keep those people?
You're not.
You're not.
Well, you're gonna have to way overpay for them, but
My best friend, she's staying at Norfolk Southern because she gets railroad benefits, which is better than Medicare, Medicaid because it's older.
yeah.
That's the only reason.
Well, so that's the same thing as like I had a professor tell me straight up. He's like, because he knew I was tech savvy, and he was just like, look, you could quit college right now and go learn, what the fuck was it called? One of the super legacy codes, like C++ era, but not C++. COBOL.
COBOL. Oh yeah.
He's like, you could go learn COBOL, and you could go to Southwest Airlines and say, I want a job, and they'll give you starting $85,000 a year and the best benefits you can fucking imagine. Why? Because the only programmers who know COBOL are 55, and that's what you have to pay them to keep those guys around. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's fucking genius.
Very, very similar.
But also,
very
if
similar.
I did nothing but handle legacy code all day with a bunch of 55-year-olds, I'd want to blow my fucking brains out.
Well, there's a very similar thing in nuclear engineering too. I started college as a nuclear engineer, and I learned Fortran, which is a
Jesus Christ. Dad has
mathematical-
mentioned Fortran.
mathematical. Yeah, it's a very
Jesus Christ. Dude.
it's a very computational
Yeah.
programming language.
Yeah.
And
Isn't that the shit they started computers with?
Close to,
I was like, doesn't mom know Fortran?
a lot of the old computers and stuff, a lot of the nuclear bases, they haven't updated their computers for fucking ever because government. So
Because government.
so they run off Fortran, which is such an old language that like all the people who know it are like 60 years old and looking to retire. And so like when I was in college, they're like, hey, you should learn this and do exactly what your professor is saying. And like, hey, do these jobs. It pays well. I was like, cool, but also fuck no. Like
I would be a functioning alcoholic.
I wouldn't even be an alcoholic.
You just die.
I just die. I just kill myself at some point.
It just
like-
game over. Fuck that.
But it's shit like that. It's just like because all these old companies, they take fucking forever to keep to stay up to date with shit. And like I get there's
Lots of red tape.
There's a little bit of red tape and a little bureaucracy that's necessary in order to do
But not to the extent we're saying.
definitely
No.
not. Like one of my friends who I used to talk to, she was a what was her fucking title?
The girl at J&J?
No, Accenture. What was her what was I forget her title, but what she did was effectively her clients were like AT&T and all these other companies, and
IT consulting.
IT consulting, that's what it was, and technology consultant, whatever. And it's like all these
I think she was a manager, but
yeah, she was, but it was like all these old companies that you would think they're technology companies would stay up to date with technology, but she would teach all these.
yuck.
Yeah. She would teach these people at like AT&T.
A very apt response to it. Accenture yuck.
She would teach these people at AT&T, all these managers, all these older people, certain technology things on how to update their infrastructure, how to do this. It's like,
Yeah.
but how did you not do this? You're a technology company. How did you not stay up to date with all this shit?
Yeah, that's your fault.
And it's just like, and I asked her one time, I was like, how old, what's the average age of the people you work with? She goes, about 50. I was like, yeah. So why the fuck? Like, Dad stays up to date with shit, and I don't understand.
Dad is usually the oldest on his team.
Yeah, but he like stays up to date with everything.
Yeah.
But that's also why he has the jobs he does.
Yeah.
But it's just it's so interesting how people
Weird. You adapt to the times. You stay relevant.
how people don't adapt. It's like, oh well, we've been doing it this way forever. Fucking cool. Who gives a shit? We're not doing it that way anymore. I don't care. Like,
world moved on, bro.
Yeah, exactly. World moved on. And then it's the same companies that cry boo-hoo when new technology comes in, or they try to suppress them in some way using
M&A usually.
whatever bullshit kind of policy, politics shit, policy stuff that they do. And it's just like, okay, but you didn't stay up to date, and you're just mad that these other people are moving in on your shit. Well, fucking, how did you get into business? You stomped on other people. You paved the way for new stuff, right? How come you're just bitching all of a sudden that other people are doing it? Step up. Like, I don't understand these companies. That's why I don't like corporations like that. I fucking hate them.
Pivot to cancel culture.
Okay.
Because I saw a thing that was like, how about instead of trying, it's like Dr. Seuss. Let's use Dr. Seuss as an example.
Okay.
If you're part of the let's call them progressive left, and you want to
The wokenistas.
the wokenistas. Let's say you're a wokenista, or a wokenisto, or a wokenist self,
Wokenist X.
wokenist X, and you want to cancel Dr. Seuss. Sure. Here's the thing. Write a book you would rather see then. Write the thing you would like to have in place of it. But you won't, because it's hard, and nobody's going to publish it. Weird. You don't like certain rappers' lyrics? Don't listen to them. Done. Don't give them your vote. You vote. We do not vote at the ballot anymore. I don't know if anyone fucking understands this yet. Voting at the ballot is the most useless. Look at what the fucking government has handled in the last year. Much less my entire life.
Oh, but Austin, they were Republican.
Fuck you.
Gavin Newsom.
Cuomo.
Nancy Pelosi.
Elizabeth Warren. AOC didn't do shit either.
No.
I have a whole other opinion on AOC that'll get me kicked off Twitch, but but the thing is, it's like, okay, if you don't like these things, replace them. Make the thing you want to see.
But Austin, that's
But that would admit capitalism works.
Yeah.
Weird. Oh, also, on the topic of equity.
Don't point at me. How dare you? No. Get out of my camera. Go.
Bust my shit.
Break your finger again.
You never broke a finger.
No, but didn't you break that finger?
No, it's this finger.
Oh, okay.
But it actually was my middle finger on my right hand.
All
right. But okay, so on the topic of equity, it means having equal representation in all positions, right? For various groups of people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Then how come
Equality of outcome.
Then how come half of all positions don't have to be Republican? Or is political affiliation not a thing to divest in?
You're getting too deep. You need to do some more surface level analysis and then just cancel people.
I want to cancel the left.
That's
the thing.
The thing is, I don't have.
But
a
if I do
problem.
that, it's white terrorism.
I don't want to cancel the left because we are part of the left. We are. But when I say left, I mean Democrats.
Left of center.
Left of center. That's what I mean.
No, yeah, we're definitely.
It's the vocal minority that's fucking retarded, but it's on both sides.
I mean, yeah, we're team both sides are idiots. I'm not gonna sit here and
healthy center. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not.
American center is still right wing. So.
Oh, not right wing, but definitely right of Western Europe.
be definitely right of all political. America Center is still pretty.
Of all democratic institutions, yeah, I'll
Yeah.
give you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Probably all.
That's what I'm saying. Is because you have like super communism, all that jazz on the left, and you got super fascism, North Korea, all that jazz on the
Parts
on
of
the
the
right,
Middle East.
on the
Monarchy.
right. Yeah, on the right. And then America's not really center. America's like just to the right. America's center is just the right.
Yeah.
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 I'm not saying it's like super far right.
No.
But it is right.
It is. No, it is.
Yep.
I agree.
All right.
If you're an independent in the U.S., you're definitely like hyper conservative in France.
That's yeah, exactly.
So I would go over to
Exactly.
France. People will look at me weird.
Well, that's why I don't cast.
But I also
myself-
wouldn't vote for the lady that was the far right candidate.
No.
I would have voted for Macron probably. Not that I know a ton, but I know he was like the centrist candidate for France,
Yeah.
which is fucking,
Which is funny because
which
like
is the
super
which
left
is
of
probably
us.
the Justice Party here in the
Right,
U.S.
Right. It's
The
just
Justice Democrats rather.
there's a. I just don't understand. Is it?
The problem is mainstream Democrats are only trying to appease. I agree.
Exactly.
I agree.
Well,
They're
that
letting a minority aim the discussion, and that's why. So that's part of my opinion of AOC. I think she's a great. I like the fact AOC exists. I don't like AOC.
Why?
Like I think she takes her Twitter following more seriously than her actual job.
I think she's just a freshman candidate who has all these grand ideas and realizes.
Well, she's technically a sophomore now,
whatever,
but
but
still,
she's been in it for not that long.
no.
But I think she has all these grand ideas, which is great to have. Idealism is great, but then she's kind of getting shot down by the system that's in place, and the system the system is shitty. I mean, the reason that we're not getting fucking anywhere in the U.S. is because both sides that are in government positions right now, Democrats and right, are benefiting from the same thing. They're kowtowing, quote unquote, not really. They're being vocal about, like Democrats in particular are being vocal about like supporting these super woke liberal left people, but at the same time not doing fucking anything to appease them. They're just giving them
Lip service.
they're
at best.
giving them lip service and FaceTime, but they're not really doing anything. But that's because they don't want to do anything because they're benefiting from the same people that are give benefits to the right as well.
I think we stopped at the discussion about lobbying in the past 3 years.
That
it's
is-
really
yes,
disappointing.
Yes.
And get money out of politics has been our thing for the last forever.
It's just
It's disgusting. People forgot, for some reason, that capitalism and democracy are not the same thing.
well, that's the other thing is like all these like the super left people are like capitalism's horrible, burn it all to the ground. It's like, but it's an economic thing. It's not a
not
government thing.
government.
You can have, just like Sweden and a lot of Europe, you can have a very capitalist society, but also not be fucking stupid in your government and have something that benefits a lot of people.
People point to how the Nordic countries operate stuff, and then, part of the kickback is, imagine if the U.S. had state-owned oil production.
Meaning,
That would not be great. So, like, a lot of the money in the Nordic countries is because it's actually it's state-sponsored oil production, which we don't have.
well, yeah.
So, but
But we're also one of the top exporters of oil
yeah. Well, now,
because we're so fucking large.
but like, as bad as private oil companies have been to people, I can't imagine how much better it would have been if the government owned it either.
The thing is,
I just don't trust our government to own anything.
But the
at
thing
this
is,
point.
people are looking at government not in terms of like the times when FDR was in power, but today. If you were to take today's government and say, hey, do you want state-run oil? No, I wouldn't. But if FDR was in place back, 80, 100 years ago, I'm fine with that. We just got to such a shitty place that we
Yeah.
are today that government isn't effective.
Yeah,
but
that's
it
true.
wasn't always ineffective.
I'll agree with that.
So
Yeah.
So yeah, if we wanted to switch over now, we'd have to overhaul the entire fucking system. That doesn't mean burn it to the ground.
No.
It means overhaul. It means change things.
Yeah. Right. Like you can amend the Constitution.
What? How dare you?
The same 200-year-old document doesn't have to run the world forever.
How dare you suggest a thing?
It was specifically designed to be edited.
Weird.
And you're choosing not to edit it for whatever fucking reason.
Weird.
I don't know. Because, like, how many amendments are in the Constitution? Like 43?
There's a lot.
There's a lot. Okay. Fucking half of them are just giving different groups of people the right to vote. Right?
Amendments.
And then there's the Bill of Rights. That's like 2/3 of it right there.
Bill of Rights is the first 10, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
How many? Alex is searching.
27.
There's 27?
27.
Fucking all of them are the Bill of Rights and the right to vote. And and a couple against slavery. But like that's it.
This is insane. So Amendment 27, no law varying the compensation for the services of the senators and representatives shall take effect until an election of representatives shall have intervened. So it's pretty much just saying, hey, senators and representatives, you get paid what you get paid, and that's it. This was originally proposed 1789, ratified in 1992.
So the last amendment change we had was in 92.
92. The one before that, 26, was proposed by Congress in 71, ratified in 71. But this last one took...
So we're like horrifically overdue.
This last one took 200 years for people to be like, hey, maybe we should just pay senators what they're paid and then not change anything.
That's such a useless... That's a pretty useless amendment in my eyes. I could give a shit less what they get paid. That's not the point I'm worried about.
I think it's because in the middle of their term they shouldn't be given more money, and I think it's because if there's midterms and a new president gets elected, Republicans don't get more money just because a Republican's in power or a Democrat gets more.
That's fair.
I think that from how I read it, that's what I think is true, and that's fine.
That's okay. That's fair.
But it took us 200 years to get that.
I still don't feel like that's an amendment situation.
Maybe, I don't know, but the fact...
No, actually, it does have to be.
The fact that
you can't have Congress making the rules on how Congress gets paid.
But the fact that it took 200 years to be like, yeah, no, that seems right.
That seems right.
Like, fucking all right, dude.
Well, they're trying to delete it. They're not. No one's actually saying get rid of the Bill of Rights. At least I haven't heard that. And the big thing is like, I mean, this is kind of a couple of things. It's kind of overblown, but it's like, it's hard to complain about capitalism from your iPhone. Is kind of like you're holding a device that's like, 10x your life, 10x more powerful. Sorry, reflex. 10x more powerful than the thing that got man to the moon in your hand. And like you're complaining. It's like,
just going on as an aside about cancel culture. The one going back to the man on the moon kind of thing. Mm. People like to cancel people for something they did in their past. My question is, how do you feel about Wernher von Braun?
Who's von Braun?
So he was the leader of NASA when we got to the moon.
Oh, he's a Nazi, isn't he?
And he was a Nazi.
Straight up SS, yeah.
He was a Nazi. And yet, in 1969, when we got to the moon, he was one of the leaders of NASA.
Yeah, he's like one of the leaders on the ground.
Of NASA.
Yeah.
And so it's like, so how do you feel about that?
How do you feel about NASA's Nazi affiliation?
Yeah. And it wasn't just Wernher von Braun, I can tell you that.
It was not just von Braun.
So that's...
Really? You think the lead took over some other scientists he knew?
Well, that's the other thing. Is like, scientists are scientists are scientists. They might have certain political affiliations or religious ideas outside of that.
There are stories of like chemical engineers that like went to work for the SS, and then like people that used to work with them at like a given research facility were kind of like, I don't know if I should keep talking to them, but also they were an important contributor to the scientific community. So it's like, But like, say what you want about whether or not we should have you know, dropped the bomb in Japan. But you gotta say, the Manhattan Project was a fucking interesting group of people.
What was?
And half of them are totally cancelable. So.
Oh, what was that, dude? There was a quote by one of the guys who worked on the Oppenheimer quote. Now I'm become destroyer of worlds.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, these fucking ads. Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. That was Oppenheimer's
Yeah.
quote on the first detonation of a nuclear weapon in 1945.
Yeah.
As shitty as it is, it also propelled nuclear technology forward a lot.
Oh, you want to know what we can thank nuclear development for? Fertilizer.
That as well, yeah.
The Bessemer process. Yeah. It's part of it.
Just because something can be used in a shitty or evil manner doesn't mean that thing is evil. I think that's what people misunderstand.
Yeah. Or that. I'm also tired of judging old things by today's standards. Things evolve over time. Like, there's this whole thing right now about trying to cancel Eminem.
For what?
Because I can't say it, but he says maggot a lot in his old songs, and it's fairly homophobic. I mean, but it's kind of not. What
rap song in the 90s and 2000s didn't have that?
Right. So my big thing, and I saw.
Is it dumb? Sure. Is it shitty? Sure. But we can't. What do
cares?
you mean cancel? What are you canceling?
Well, here's the thing. Right.
He's still gonna make music. Who
You
gives a
did-
shit? He's Eminem. He's
Eminem
one of the best rappers. I don't understand.
In 2019, Eminem was top 10 selling artist on Spotify. Did not release a song that year. So he had like 3 of the top selling albums on Spotify, and they were all from the 90s and 2000s.
Also, you completely missed the entire point of his discography when you think that
the
he's-
Slim Shady era.
when you think him saying the F word is all of a sudden horrible when he has a upbringing the way he did. He is lucky to get out just the F word. Like, I don't understand.
Right.
What do you entirely missed everything, didn't you? You missed everything.
Well, and so a post discussing it was like, well, imagine if his lyrics came out today, but they didn't.
But they didn't, right?
But they didn't.
But they didn't.
Dr. Seuss books didn't come out today.
Right.
Right? And so your inability to learn history is not a reason to delete it.
No. Oh, so
That's the quote of the day.
I think we're both on the same page about this. Speaking of pages, but it's
Pagination.
but you sent me a thing how they were what area was that in Florida? They were trying to burn books, Dr. Seuss books.
What era?
What area? Was it in Florida?
That was in South Florida.
South
Yeah.
Florida. So he
I was
sent,
like, at least they're actually burning books.
he sent me a screenshot of some post on Craigslist trying to get a get together to burn Dr. Seuss books. And dumb, sure, but my whole thing is like cancel culture has been the way it is because everything is digital. It's so easy for people just to hit a delete button. Rather than if you wanted to delete all of J.K. Rowling's books, you'd have to go individually get them and burn them physically in order to actually cancel her. Instead of just being like, oh, well, she's blah, 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 even though she's not. But it's just
She's
like,
not.
but it's the same thing with but the thing is he sent me, oh, they're trying to burn books of Dr. Seuss. Like, at least they're trying to do something physical and burn the books.
I'll give you credit for that.
I'll give you credit for the actual effort. You're actually putting in effort.
Yeah, that's actually trying to cancel him.
Is it dumb?
Getting rid of
Is
his
it dumb
product.
and stupid and you shouldn't do it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay. All right.
It's better than I can like at least be like, at least they're not just a keyboard warrior,
That's the thing.
right?
That's the
It's like
thing.
you're actually about it. Okay.
Well,
On a weird level, I can respect
What's
that.
super funny is like, so if there's a company for an example, Rooster Teeth makes a bunch of online content. It's been doing it for 14 years.
Yeah.
They recently had a couple people ousted for being very questionable in their ethics. One guy.
What kind of ethics?
What?
I haven't kept up. So what's
Some
the-
dub shit. So one guy at Funhouse, Adam, I think it was sending dick pics to people. Whatever. Who gives a shit? But they were taking at the offices that they were at. So you shouldn't be doing that.
Probably shouldn't be doing that. Okay.
And it was
Yeah.
to
that's
it was to members of the community. So like
not great.
So people are like power, and I was like, no, I don't think that's.
I don't think that was
that's
a power situation.
So the other one is there was a guy who was outed for very similar things, sending dick pics,
Sure.
talking to people in the community, and he's openly he's like everyone knows he's married. The thing is that they had not talked about this publicly, but him and his wife had an open marriage for a couple of years. So he was just talking to members of the community, being like, hey, blah, 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 let's get together, let's hook up, shit like that. And so it came off wrong to all these members of the community.
But it was actually
But it was
within bounds of his
it was
relationship.
totally ethical and within bounds of his relationship. Now some people were being like, "Oh, it's a power thing. He shouldn't be talking to members of the
Okay.
community." Blah 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 blah.
Hold
And
on.
I was like, "I don't." Okay, if you, why is it weird when someone who's fond of someone else for the content that they create, whether it be a musician, artist, online personality, whoever, someone likes that person for the content they create and they're a fan of theirs. Why is it then wrong for that content creator to maybe proposition or have some sort of sexual relationship with the other person that is totally consensual? Why is that wrong? I don't get that.
lobsters.
Okay, but no, people are starting to try to cancel Mick Jagger. But that's for under.
It's a little late.
No, right. 50 years too
50
late.
fucking years later.
But there, one of the things is they were underage. We're talking about 15-year-olds. That's different. But like,
That's wrong.
there's how many years has Tommy Lee, the drummer, been talking about banging fans and their moms at the same
He
time?
actually has openly discussed that. Yeah.
At the same time.
I got too bad.
How is that okay?
Same
But
damn time.
people will be like, "Is that wrong?" I don't know. Is it? It's 3 consenting adults, fans. They wanted to have sex with Tommy Lee, and Tommy Lee is like, "Yeah, I want to have sex with you too. Cool, let's do that." Now, is it
No one
shitty-
shits on that.
No, but if all of a sudden a fan of a member of the community of Rooster Teeth is like, "Hey, I'm interested sexually or otherwise in this content creator," and this content creator is like, "Hey, yeah, I'm interested in you too. Let's do something." All of a sudden, they're called out for having like power issues. How? Fucking how? They're adults. They can say, "Hey, no," unless the content creator has been like, "Hey, I'm trying in some way to use power over them." Yeah, that's wrong. But if it's 2 people consenting, 2 adults consenting to a sexual relationship, just because one is a fan of the others, shit, I want my girlfriends to be a fan of me. Why the fuck? Why is that so weird?
Right. Okay.
Why is that weird?
Okay, so here's the thing. In any other context that's not the entertainment world, if you have an admiration for the work somebody does, it's not a problem.
No.
Do you think mom doesn't have some level of admiration for what dad's able to do at his job?
Right.
Because it's a very complex job that pays the bills rather handsomely.
Well, it goes into,
Right?
it goes
So,
into
like-
hierarchies and lobsters.
Lobsters. That's why I was like, lobsters.
with like competency. Women love competency.
Women love, by the way, they love competency more than money.
Yes.
That's also been shown. So don't worry.
But I don't.
But in the entertainment world, they kind of go hand in hand.
My question is,
I mean, it goes hand in hand in general.
it's almost always YouTubers are getting shafted. I have never
almost
seen.
always YouTubers.
There's actors that get called out for whatever, sure, but when someone does something like using COVID to boost their viewer numbers, it's only YouTubers that get called out instead of all of the fucking mainstream
I was
news.
like all of the mainstream media.
So my question is like, okay, why is it only YouTubers that are getting
Fear-mongering,
shafted?
yeah.
Why is it only YouTubers that are getting shafted for doing X or Y thing? Whether or not they're wrong, it's only YouTubers that are getting
Yeah.
called out for it
Yeah, that's
because they don't have the representation. They aren't able to defend themselves really. That's why.
Do you
Because it's easy. Because it's easy.
conspiracy moment. I don't think it's out of bounds to say that traditional media outlets have an incentive to make YouTubers look bad.
Well, yeah, of course they do. But also,
right? 'Cause
but also,
that's where their eyeballs are going.
well, that and they're trying to migrate to YouTube too. You know how many fucking late night talk shows are now on YouTube? How many clips there are?
It's just clips on
like
YouTube.
it. I don't look at that shit, and my YouTube feed is inundated with it.
Yeah, same.
I watch comedy shit, and they're like, "Oh, you like that? Here's some Colbert stuff." It's like, but
Colbert's not funny anymore.
he's not funny when he left Colbert Show.
Yeah, as soon as he's on Colbert Show, I stopped watching because he wasn't funny anymore.
Now he's just a late night talk show host.
Now
who
he
says
just
the
cries
same-
along with Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah. So it's I don't it's just there's a bunch of shit out there that people don't they do surface level analysis and then they get all mad and in their feelings. It's like, no, but if you actually take a step back and be a little more objective in your analysis, hey, maybe you'll figure out that you're the wrong one. But fuck me for saying that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a little.
I just don't get cancel
It's
culture.
just a little problematic.
Cancel culture's fucking dumb. But please, by all means, please cancel us. Just get it over with. So
Yeah,
we can,
honestly, it makes my Patreon even faster.
we a little of that, and we should just move on. You already canceled us? Oh, but you want to cancel us again? I thought it worked the first time, or is that not? Oh, okay.
There is a
Just go ahead.
state.
Just get it over.
There's a state legislator in Miami-Dade area, I think, or Fort Lauderdale, one of the two. She got kicked off of Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, and still won her seat. Cancel culture doesn't work right there. It doesn't work. Remember when they went for Dave Chappelle?
Yeah.
How'd that work out for him?
Remember when they went through for Andrew Schultz?
Oh my God. He literally just got more famous off of it. He's
did-
actually
he
the
did
most
exact-
successful he's ever been
Ex-
by leaning into the canceling.
Exactly what happened. Exactly what he said was going to happen is what happened.
Yeah. Irony is not lost on me.
So my whole thing is like, okay, people want to talk shit about people and try to cancel them. You're just bringing attention to them. Morgan Wallen
Right.
is now the top. What his sales skyrocketed because of the whole thing.
Right.
Is it a shitty thing to say what he did? Who gives a fuck?
Who
though?
gives a shit though?
But we talked about that last stream a little bit. But it's just like, I don't understand people. You know why Kim Kardashian is a thing after 20 fucking years? It's because people keep fucking talking about it. If you just stop fucking talking about it, and her and her family, she goes away. Oh, you still complain about her? Yeah, but you're still typing in her fucking name. The algorithm doesn't know any different whether it's negative or positive.
Nope.
The algorithm still keeps feeding you the same shit over and over. So
It
it's
feeds you what you interact most with.
so
whether
just
it's love or
stop
hate.
interacting with it. Stop talking about it.
Right.
I don't understand how people don't fucking comprehend that.
Well, that's the saying. Social media didn't change anyone. It's a mirror.
No, exactly.
It exposes exactly who you are in
Exactly.
your face.
And the thing is, I grew up on the internet. You think people who grew up on the internet would fucking understand this?
I miss bullying.
Yeah.
I think it shaped me in a positive manner at the end of the day.
There's certain things. I mean,
To a point.
to a point.
But like
So,
but like, okay, take a modern woke leftist, put him in a COD Black Ops 1 lobby.
that's
Game
funny.
over. Game. They would not fucking last.
The funny thing is, it's just like, so you shouldn't bully people for what they can't change.
Sure.
Sure.
But if your ideas are dumb or what you say is dumb,
Yeah.
get ready.
Also, don't be married to your ideas.
Strong opinions, loosely held.
Right. But so
Well,
I'm five. You can't see it on camera, but I'm 5'7". I'm short for a guy.
I know he looks 5'2", but he's actually quite impressive.
I've been.
I wasn't gonna let you get away with feeling good. See, it works. It works.
I've been teased, and I don't even. I see, the thing is, I don't even say I've ever been bullied because I've never internalized any of it.
I think
that's the difference.
Maybe I think part of it is at most maybe other athletes have tried to abuse that fact that you're smaller. Not that means a ton in your area, but
Well, so the funny thing is, so I've been teased for being short almost all my life, and it is what it is. It's fine.
especially by me.
The thing is it shitty that people do it just because that's my height? I can't really change my height.
Kinda,
Sure.
yeah.
Whatever. Who gives a shit? But at the same time, you know what it made me do? It made me come up with better comebacks.
Right.
So my thing was always like, because I was always faster than people, because I'm a fast person. I've played soccer. For 20
he's okay.
I played soccer for 20 years, but my comeback in like middle school and stuff always was like, oh, you're so short, blah blah blah. I was like, okay, yeah, you want to race?
Your mom thought I was big enough.
It shuts him up real quick. Well, that too, shit like that. It's just like it shuts him up real quick. It's like, oh, you're better in one area, cool. I'm better in another area than you. I don't.
Right.
What are we talking about?
What are we talking about?
And so it's shit like that. You grow thick skin, but it's like, oh, I'm so short. I'm gonna feel bad for myself. What is that? What does feeling bad for yourself do? It does fucking nothing. It does absolutely nothing.
What's it? It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
life's pretty easy, but it's better to be prepared for when it's not.
Well, it's that same idea.
God, that was never more obvious in the last 2 years for us.
What?
Just, life was okay for us during the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
Everyone kept freaking the fuck out. And we were just like, we'll just pivot to try that instead.
Yeah, my life didn't really change.
Not really.
In fact, there was certain areas that got better.
Actually, yeah.
So
Actually, same. 2020, on a personal note, was like the best year to date at that point.
it's fine. Well, that's the other. I was listening to a podcast the other day. It was
Check your health privilege.
it was saying.
Sorry, loaded statement.
That's a can of worms. All right. No. One of the other things.
Sorry, it's not my fault. I wasn't fucking obese.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't. I know how to control my weight. But Alex, some people have a glandular problem. Yeah. 30% of the population, 70% are overweight. Okay, everyone has a glandular problem. All right. So I was watching a podcast the other day, and it was saying how you shouldn't just write off a year and be like, 2020 was shitty, blah 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 blah. And I had this same exact thing at the turn of the year when I posted on New Year's Day. It was like, your year is what you make of it.
Yeah.
What were you sent?
With the $1,400 check coming, we're about to see a lot of Gucci belts on Instagram stories.
Oh, yeah, no shit.
That's
With the amount of people driving,
that's all I was giggling.
with the amount of people driving out today, you can definitely tell people are out and about.
Well, we have the mandate lifted
Well, I know,
as well, so
but
that's part
then
of it.
everyone's anticipating that 1,400. But anyways, so
Yeah.
you shouldn't write off a year just because certain bad things happen. Your year is what you make of it.
Yeah.
So it's like, was 2020 bad? In general, maybe.
Not the greatest.
It wasn't fun. It wasn't great.
It wasn't.
It wasn't great.
It was kind of fun.
But at the same time, whenever you say a year, like if you're going to be like, oh, 2021 is not going to be any better, you're writing off the entire year. We have like, what, 9 months left of the year? You're writing off the rest of the year and saying it's shitty?
Right.
You're wrong.
That's also your fault.
You're wrong. You can't predict the future. And two, okay, you're just going to have a pessimistic view? Yeah, okay, then that shit will follow. I hate being like, oh, your mindset is blah, 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 because it's bullshit. That's bullshit.
That's also bullshit.
You don't manifest shit, blah, 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 blah. But if you do view life through a certain lens, it is a self-fulfilling prophecy to a certain extent.
To a certain degree.
So
I think it's more so that, like, if you feel a little more positive, you're probably more open to different ways
Exactly.
of navigating.
Exactly.
And that adaptability plays out.
exactly.
Um,
And if you go into an interview and you get out of the interview, you're like, oh, they're not going to hire me, blah, 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 blah. And then you don't do a follow-up, you don't send them an email, you don't do any of this stuff, then yeah, you're probably not going to get that job. But if you come out of that interview being like, oh, it was okay. All right, it was all right. Maybe it wasn't the best, but it was all right. You send them that thank you email, you do all this other stuff, and maybe they're more apt to pick you based on how you interact with them afterwards or whatever.
living that right now.
You don't know. You don't know. So it's just like, if you're going to have that pessimistic view, you're already wrong.
yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
that goes into the victim mindset and all this other shit. And
Yeah, that's the thing is, like,
you want to be a victim your entire life for the next 80 fucking years. You want to be cast as a victim. Cool. Where's that gonna get you?
I mean, and that goes into the whole far left's idea about fighting for the poor. They make the assumption they can't fend for themselves,
Right.
and it's like that's also false.
Yeah.
And pretty insulting, to be honest, to say that, like, oh, there's nothing you can do about your situation. What? Right? Now,
Did you not see the movie Happiness with Will Smith?
Pursuit of Happiness?
Pursuit
Now,
of
I'm
Happiness?
not a full send of bootstraps guy, but to a certain extent, like, your circumstance is not your fault, but it is your responsibility.
Right.
Right. And so, like, if life fucking sucks for you and you don't want to be in that situation, you can get out. You can take this and change your life with it. You have fucking any piece of information you want to know at your fingertips. If you don't want to learn it, that's your fucking problem. End of story.
Oh,
And
but,
now,
but also
to a
it's
certain-
too hard. It's so hard. Yeah,
Okay.
change is hard. I don't.
Change is hard.
Change
Life's
is never
hard.
supposed to be easy. Change is never supposed
Life
to be
is
easy.
hard. Life is hard.
I don't understand the concept of like, oh, it's hard, so therefore I'm not going to do it.
No.
Well, then you're not going to get what you want.
The things worth doing are hard.
Yeah.
You know what's hard? Getting a Twitch stream to be monetized.
We have 12 followers, guys. We need 38 more.
Yeah, but actually,
Where are you?
yeah, what the fuck? It's $5. It's the cost of comedy a month. I deserve this fucking money. What the fuck, guys?
I just need your pieces of bread to get me that loaf. Come on now.
Never heard that, but I like it.
Oh, fuck.
I'm gonna think of more analogies in that vein now.
I didn't make the fucking logo I wanted to make last week. I'll do it. Talking about big shrimps.
What?
I haven't made the logo yet, but I want to do it.
Shrimping.
Shrimping. Big
I'm
shrimp.
gonna. Hey, babe, I'm gonna go out shrimping. You want?
Think of like gumbo shrimp.
I was trying to think of something else.
No,
Couldn't think of it.
no.
I haven't watched the movie in a while. Fried shrimp, shrimp teriyaki, shrimp
Shrimp scampi.
shrimp scampi.
But anyway, okay. Yeah.
You grew up on a corn farm. Yeah, we had all sorts of corn on the cob,
So
corn, cream.
So I think both of our ideas
Canned
is
cream.
that we need to raise the floor, not lower the ceiling.
yeah.
Like our
Which, by the way, is happening globally.
yes. What?
Raising the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
absolute poverty has been like cut in half in the last like 12 years.
So what we mean by that is that there are certain programs, certain things that can be done on a governmental level, on a socioeconomic level to raise those who are less fortunate, to those who are more disadvantaged, given a shitty hand in life. Changing the system so it's not as racist is always a good thing. Changing, putting taxes into more social programs so that you give education and better education to the lowest economic I can fucking speak.
Lower socioeconomic status.
That. Thank you. I can talk.
Words are hard.
Words are hard, but it's stuff like that you can do and we should do.
Yep.
But at the same time, to then be like, there shouldn't be billionaires.
Also wrong.
Just because you're not one, or you're jealous, or because there is some sort of
Corruption at the top.
wealth gap, wealth disadvantage for people doesn't
Tax
mean
loopholes.
like I get that there are certain shitty things that wealthy people can and do
Yep.
to get
To maintain.
to maintain their wealth and get more wealth, and that's bad. And we should kind of close those loopholes, do all we can to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But just because there are billionaires doesn't make them shitty.
No.
Like there shouldn't be billionaires. Why? My argument is if you build a company and you become this super rich person and your business is headquartered or based out of some city or whatever, you should pay your workers a fair wage of at least $15 an hour. Mm-hmm. Probably give money to different social programs in that community around your business to help the city, effectively the community that helped build your business to get to where it is in the first place. And you should help that. But just because you have money and just because you're a billionaire doesn't mean you're then obligated to end all the wealth gap in the entire U.S., much less the entire world. That's not your responsibility. It's Michael Jordan's Republicans buy shoes too. It's the same thing of you put on this idea of other people being a role model. It is their choice to be a role model or not. They can take on that obligation, but that they are not, just because they're famous or wealthy does not mean they are automatically role models. Plain and simple.
Right.
So that is where it is. And like a lot of the breakdown of all these socioeconomic and political discussions is really a human psychological and philosophical discussion. It's not really actually politics.
It's not a lot.
Or is what most politics just philosophy and psychology with a little bit of accounting thrown in?
I think a lot of our political discrepancy has become changes in personality trait than it is actual thought through stance.
Yeah.
I mean, and they weren't like not that way to begin with. I mean, people who are more orderly tend to be more Republican. Those who are more creative tend to be Democrat, right? And that's not an absolute by any means.
No.
But it makes sense. You know, if you fall into a certain line of thinking, there's, let's call it half the population that's fairly similar to you. You're going to be in a different camp than the other end of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of works out.
Well, it's the same thing with religion and science, where most engineers and most scientists, I want to say it's like close to 80%, are non-religious or non-practicing.
Yeah.
Because to be a scientist, to be an engineer, you have to think logically. You have to kind of pull information from different areas and kind of put them together and how they interact, and think of different things and be an open-minded person and think logically on how to get the next steps and move forward.
Yeah.
That line of thinking is not very apparent in religion when it is very cut and dry.
No, it's not.
It's very cut and dry. Don't ask questions. It is what it is.
Well,
blah,
faith
blah, 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 blah.
is the opposite of criticism.
Right. And it's like, oh, you just have to believe. It's just, it's God's will. He does things mysteriously. It's like, no, but why though? Well, like that's the crux of science, is to answer the question why.
Right.
So it's the same kind of idea.
Religion feels superfluous to me.
It is today.
Not inherently not useful.
On a personal level, it can be useful, but on a population level, it is useless.
Yeah, I agree. Well, nowadays.
Now it is, yes.
I think up to the Enlightenment, it was fairly useful.
Yeah. It could have been useful, yes.
Yeah. Whether or not it was actually useful in feudalism, big debate.
I would argue no.
I would argue no. Right? There was a lot of...
It did the opposite of what it was intended.
I rule over you because it's God's will happened. That's not true.
Yeah.
So,
It wasn't communities being brought together over a shared moral stance. It was
just take their brain power away from freaking out about earthquakes and just be like, how do I raise my family? Fine. If that's what you had to do to get by.
There really wasn't philosophical or human psychological discussions. It was more of morality discussions.
Just not in all parts of the world.
No, but
and not on any widespread scale until even after the printing press, people had to become more literate over time.
Well, what I'm saying is, in general, religion has almost always been used by those in power to subjugate those without power.
Yes, that is accurate.
Time and time again. No matter what religion.
The exception being partially ancient Greece.
No.
Athens was democratic.
The Republican was, but it's I guess, okay, yeah, ancient Greece.
Sparta was not democratic, but it also didn't base its hierarchy on religious status either.
Right. Well, a lot of the polytheist religions were the gods were gods, and like they might have controlled certain weather patterns, but Zeus fathered 32 children from mortals, apparently. So
yeah,
he fucked trees. Like I don't forest nymphs.
You ever seen those roots?
Because those are real.
Hey man, you seen those roots? Sometimes
them thick trunks,
some thick ventricles going on.
So thick they're thuck.
What? What the fuck is thuck?
They're so thick they're thuck.
They're like a trunk. Thuck. I'm only typing thuck from now on in our Discord.
Don't you mean thick? No. Thuck.
Damn, she thuck.
She thuck. No.
What? This is how you make your own language. Like, I remember first getting into Your Mom's House, which is a podcast, if you don't know. And like they were talking about cool guys in jeans and like, you know, all sorts of shit. And I'm like, you have no clue what's going on when you first get into the show.
No.
Because I got in on episode like 380 or some shit.
Oh yeah.
Right? And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Right? And then over time you start watching it and you start to realize like what they mean by jeans or what a cool guy is. Right? Or Cajun or which is we co-opted that one as well. If you don't know, we refer to Cajun as pants on the head. So that's all I can say. Okay, speaking of pants on the head, though, is that a function of they can't dress themselves or they can't dress themselves? Meaning, like, they actually don't know what pants are for, or they just look like their mom lays out their clothes in the morning still?
I generally think
Because we know both of those people.
I don't know why. I don't know why I do this. So, okay.
So this is the part where we get canceled. Okay.
All right. So I don't know why I do this, but whenever I think of pants on the head people, I put them in the same box as people with ADHD.
That's not.
They're not. They're definitely not the same people.
Not even close.
They're not the same people. But ADHD has a spectrum, and so does pants on the head. There's function. There's people. There's
So does
people.
Asperger's.
That's what I'm saying. Well, Asperger's is on the spectrum
That's what I'm
of.
saying.
So it's like, are they different? They're not. They are, but they're not. But they are.
They don't speak the language. Should build a wall around the state of Louisiana.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
But I don't know why, but my mental image just automatically goes to kids. It's not even.
You know
like,
what I think?
No.
When I hear pants on the head, you know what I think? Arms drew your legs.
No, I see.
Which is also wildly different.
So whenever you say pants on the head, I think of a 6-year-old running around with his pants on the head, being my mommy, look at me, and the mom is just weathered and tired, and be like, "Can we just go to the store already?"
You're describing me, and I don't like it.
Yes. No, but to the point where it's every fucking day this kid does this, as if
That was not me.
not understanding, hey, we need to get a move on, or not understanding. It's not understanding what pants are for, just always being in their own world, not connecting with reality.
See, we don't use corporal punishment here. Verbal abuse.
So I don't. So like I don't know why. But that's my mental image goes to that.
I mean, that's a more fair mental image than what either of us have, actually. That's actually pants on the head.
Yeah, that is pants on the head.
That is actually pants on the head.
And he's obviously not making eye contact with the mom. And the mom's like, maybe I shouldn't have given him the vaccine. But oh, before you cancel me, no, vaccines do not cause autism. It just so happens you get an array of vaccines at the same time.
We're just saying vaccines make you want to put pants on your head.
Correct.
That's all we're saying.
Yeah, because, you're already protected, so why do you need more protection? So
Put your tinfoil pants on, Timmy. We're going out.
vaccines, an array of vaccines, like the MMR vaccines, they all get given at around the same time that symptoms of autism start appearing. Oh, my son was always giving me eye contact when he was 1, but now he's 2, and the symptoms appear.
Maybe he's just not that into you anymore.
Also that too, I remember stop wanting hugs from mom when I was a kid.
I was thinking more in like a SVU sense.
I was too.
Dun, dun.
Dun. Just cancel us, please. Even though we're on the right side of science. Yeah, I just.
There's a cradle robbing joke in there somewhere.
Well, the thing is, like people don't understand that symptoms appear. Like you're always gonna show your symptoms from the day you're born. You're wrong because
That's not how these things develop.
lupus. Mom has lupus.
Mom has lupus.
Lupus. You don't show symptoms of lupus until your mid-20s. mid to early 20s. So there are many people who just have this autoimmune disease and have no fucking idea for the first 23 years of their life.
You?
It's an autoimmune disease that inflames your joints.
Oh.
So there's that.
So there's that.
But like to think that like, oh, you're just always going to show symptoms for all your illnesses all the time since you were born. It's like, no, that's not how this works. So, and just because, again, correlation does not equal causation.
Yeah.
Just because you get vaccines at a certain time doesn't mean that these things cause another set of issues.
Nope.
But fuck me for saying that.
SpuriousCorrelations.com is still the best website on the internet.
Amount of Nicolas Cage movies
Number
released.
of Nicolas Cage movies made per year, lined with the amount of drownings in backyard swimming pools, is a correlation of like 0.85.
0.85, meaning they're correlated. As one goes up, the other goes up.
And when one goes down, the other goes down.
Are they causal? We don't know. That's
Probably.
That's for science to find out. But it's the same reason why they can't say smoking causes cancer.
Because that has not been established.
Well, because there's so many different varying pathways and complications that you cannot say this causes this. Although 2/3 of those who smoke get some form of cancer
Yeah.
that they would not otherwise have.
Yeah.
Due to the carcinogens from cigarettes.
Which really fucks with the family history question when I go to the doctor. It's like, do you have a family history of X? They all smoked.
Well, mom
Fucking all
didn't
of them.
smoke. Dad, I don't think.
Dad chewed tobacco up until I was born.
Yes.
But that's also not as bad in my opinion.
It can be. What?
But I feel like most chewing habits aren't as bad as the pack-a-day smokers our family
the thing
has.
is, you chew less than you would otherwise smoke, but because it is so concentrated, those who chew get cancer in their jaw way more often.
Yeah.
Because it just fucking sits there.
But Dad's been fine.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know how long he did it for, too. That's the other thing.
Oh.
Depends on the time.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. There's all these cases of like people who smoke for 40 fucking years and never have a complication. That's why they can't say
One
it
of our
causes
aunts
it.
is that way.
Yeah, that's why they say it can't cause it, but there is a correlation.
Definitely like look out.
Right.
Yeah.
So